Okay, I'm going to tell you this a little bit slower. 1.5 times your money in blackjack. 24 hours in the day. 1.5 times the day, 24 hours equals 36. 36 on the first one that was here, or let's just say 36 plus the I, which is God. We'll count them for the 1 0, because he needs no reflection, because he can look at himself and know. And then there's man, which is the 2 zeros, because he ought to reflect on himself. So they have a 0 and a double 0 in North America. The total of 38. 3 and 8 is 11. Although it took only 36, we now have 38. You see, the 1.5 made the 2436. 2436. The other number is the figure of the most beautiful woman, because with those figures you figure out the time of man. They were squeezed in somewhere else. She was a big girl, but her numbers is what counted for the man, because once the man had the right girl with the right numbers, once he took her in, he reproduced. So there was a reproduction, or a production in the theater, for someone to tell the word of something he knows or something he wants to tell. Even if it's not true, we all want to see the story of what his thought was. So my thought is the Mayans, I need to know all the numbers and I can tell you what they mean. Because obviously it's pretty easy to figure out everything, because there's no decimals, there's no in-between fractions. That was taken care of when the grid changed. You see, the fraction that was here was a fraction of the price, a fraction of the cost, a fraction of everything. It was a quarter and 1, and a quarter and 2, and a quarter and 3, and 4 quarters makes $1. So a perfect man takes 4 balls and 4 quarters. We've got to walk. And he went to first base. He doesn't pick it up and keep it, he just stands on it. So where he stands is who he is, because sometimes where you are is who you are, but not all the time, because if you're standing in shit, you're going to get dirty and stink. So the stink is not so bad, because that's not who you are if you're nice, but you're in the wrong place and you stink, so they think you're someone else. They think you're the pig, and you're not the pig at all, although your nose is sometimes pushed up. Even if you open those holes, you don't want the nose to go up, because if it goes up, you're stuck up. And if you're stuck up, the air goes in the nose and it goes out the nose before it gets in. Therefore, you're getting 1.5 times less the air, that nose, so you know less. But you still have the nose, so you're not nose less, but you know less to know less. Taking away from something because of something else you have, the distance or the way it's placed, because they wanted you a little bit more beautiful here, because they didn't need you for other things. And the pig was okay, so your nose up and his nose up. The Jap was all okay, because the Jap is the jack that has the hook that knows if he throws up the hook, he can crawl up, because Batman and Robin threw the grappling hook over and they grabbed. And it wasn't a railing. Grappling, grabbing the railing but climbing up the wall. Batman and Robin, the bird who sings and chirps, the bird that is free that flies, of the eagle of the gold. But when you get the gold, we're all in trouble. Yet when you hit 50, which is only half, it's the best time that they call the golden age. So I think we're all mixed up, don't you think? We want gold, but we don't want to reach the golden age. So we won't see both sides of the story and the truth. So we close our eyes to the truth, so what good are our eyes? Open them up to see the whole story. Again, even if the story is a tale, and it doesn't matter how many tales, as long as you know it's just a story. Because a story is just a story until you tell the truth to yourself. The truth might turn into a lie, turning your story upside down. Therefore, if you want to go up to heaven, your story is going nowhere but down. So therefore, your death would put you down with it. So no one is going up, and you die, and you're nothing forever, because you never told your story. Because you were a dick. And the dick you were pointed up. But when you went up and you didn't put the cap on, you got AIDS and you died, because AIDS is angel in action, distress. Angel I for God. The D is the E that turns around and goes up, or it makes a mistake and it goes down. The P and the E and the D with the I of the G, because that makes the pig, because God made the pig because he knew what man was and he knew the directions up and down. To take the E, to dig, to Doug, the Dougie-mon, and that's what Doug is all about. Did you ever hear about Doug Brown? You know what it is, Doug Brown? Because when you dig, you see the brown earth. And between the two C's, when you sit down to the crap, it's your crap, and you get rid of it in there, because it's the twilight zone. Yet it takes shit all the time, so there's no twilight at all. It's only a toilet. And in the back, there's a reserve for extra water that is fresh to clean the toilet. Because what stinks has to go. So if I stink, I have to stop making videos. I am the worth of less. So my worth is no more. So therefore, when I sell my work, I get nothing, because there's no substance to it. Therefore, there's nothing in hand to hold, because the matter doesn't exist. And when the matter doesn't exist, you have nothing. So therefore, if you don't play it right, when you go back with your story, you'll be taking back an empty piece of paper that looks like what you saw. So you'll be taking back your eyes, and in them you see the white paper and nothing else, because you had no vision and you weren't nice, and that's why you have no vision. And you couldn't take it with you, because you weren't nice, and you can't take nothing nowhere when you're not going anywhere, because there's nowhere to go, because you have no invitation now. So you go down because you're old, so you can't stand up anymore, so you rather lie down. So you lie down, you don't feel like getting up, so they put you down under the ground. You don't have to get up. There's no force. They respect you when you're in the ground, but when you're in the E-world, you've got to come and go. You got to come to work and then go. Holy fuck, they want us there, now they want to get rid of us. So to pay us to give us a sum, so they sum us up, or the sum of everything, so they charge us, and they put us in jail. Because we had a thought that we knew from our nose. Because our smell wasn't so good, they put us away. So we couldn't think, but we still had the nose to know everything at all. Yet they locked us up. And we had the fingers, but we couldn't use them in their world. And we were here to work for them, yet they didn't want us to work at all, because they thought it was better if we were all locked up. So we were put on this world, and that's why we can't fly. We're locked up on this world. And all that's good and all that's bad you live with. So you don't have to go to any other jail than your own house, or your own head, or your own bed, because it comes from your voice, and everything rhymes, so it's something you said. And when man moves in the E-world, it is read, because when it doesn't move, you are dead. And when the story is all told, it is said, and it goes old, O-L-D. The world, what stood up, from the growing E that stood up in the D. So it's still alive, otherwise he wouldn't be the old man, he'd be the dead man. And therefore, he wouldn't be any man at all, except for who he was and the story that brought with him. So even if he goes down, we never know until he goes up, until we go up, so we won't know the end of his story, because altogether it's a history. And my back hurts, and I got a pain, the hiss, that hernia, Nia, Nina, 9, Nia, Nina. The reason for the Nina, the double connection with God, the two ends and the I in between, you have one on both sides, so if God leans over to one side, you can hold him up, because you got the two stands on the legs, or if he leans the other side. But then at the end of the Nina, you have the A, which is the angel, because the angel's already standing, because the angel has learnt everything, and God is so try hard to show us everything, that he leans over to one side, and he leans over to the other side, because he takes any direction to pass on what he has to pass on. So when you drive the car, if there's something in front of you, you must pass. You beep the horn out loud instead of screaming, because they can't hear you because of the motor and the oil of the engine. The engine or the Indian, because without the Indian you have no power for your car. The reason for the yellow is the yellow gasoline that goes in the car, and the Indian is the one that had all the power and knowledge, and the power and knowledge is what gets the gasoline to the car, because you have to get the car to the station. And if you get to the station with no direction, you go nowhere, you have no gasoline, and you're stuck. But yet you don't have a flat, and the world is not flat, it's round just like your tire, but at this point you go nowhere. And the point of the matter is, everything that goes around, or is a square, or a circle, or a triangle, what is it, recta, or triangular? The I, which is a rectangle, the bottom part of it, it is stretched out like you stretched a story, so we are allowed to stretch ourselves and feel better, but don't stretch the story too far that you don't remember and you forget the truth. What makes it all a fib or a fable. And sometimes when you forget, it's because you're not able to remember. So it's not a fib, it's a fable of a story you told that you thought was the truth. And that's the truth of man, the man of 6. The man of 6 because he was 1, and with the reflection he was 2. And in order to walk somewhere, he needed 4 balls. He had 2 of his own, but the reflection brought 4. 4 and 2 is 6, and that's the story of man. I will explain to you the other parts and the in-betweens and the up and downs, because I love it. But I think time is up right now. That is the it's the 4:49 instead of the 6:49, because I'm the man of 4, and it's the 49 minute after the hour. There's only 11 minutes up. That's the total count. From 0 to 10 is 11. So that would make it 5 o'clock. 5 and 2 is 7, and that's the number of cards you need to play the game. Thus, I guess my transmission from this PC is done for now, and I'm going out to have fun in the other side of this world. Then I'll be good on both sides, because I love to play. Man likes to play the game, so watch out where you piss, because if you piss in the wind, you piss on yourself, and you piss yourself off. And you're the reflection of everything. So when you shit, be careful when you sit on the seat. You don't sit and shit in the fields. And if you sit on the seat in the field, you are on the ground. There you sit in your own shit. just like the cow in the field that grazes, lays around, but the cow makes purity. When man lays around, he makes nothing right. He was brought here to be pure, but he was brought here to work to know and to learn what his father taught him of the eye. The rest of it is what he learns when he's down here, and he does with it what he does, because it's his choice. Taster's choice. Man has the choice to taste. And if he likes it, it is his taste bud, and he's your buddy, because he tastes. Buddy the cat, and I have a cat named Buddy, and I have a cat named Samuel, and that's for Emmanuel. And I have a cat named Whitey, because White-Faced Mountain is to face up to yourself. What are the other names of my cat? One is the Panther, because he is the panther, it is the cat. He's a black cat, but he is sharp. I have another cat, his name is Martin. I call him number 11 because if you look at him, he's got 2 stripes like the skunk on the back of his self, and he's got 2 11s on each side. I have another cat that has 007 with 50, and then it says God, and it has a grid on the other side that says dog, and it's not the pound, and it's not a dog, it's a cat. And all my cats have different letters. I have Sigma on everybody. Sigma is a connection. Sigma, if you turn it over, looks like an E. If you take the 2 C's apart, but you touch them together and bend them, that looks like the E that's spelled out like this and goes around. What goes around comes around. You see this E? Or this E? Or this E? The McDonald's. Okay? The McDonald's is not an E. Okay? There's a division with it, that's a C, and I'll show you how the C split apart and came back together, and I'll show you the waves. Here everybody knows is one C, and there you go for the other C. Now it looks like a 3 when it's actually an E, when it started off as a C, so it depends how you cut it up and tear it apart and put it back together. Every single time it'll come out different. And God put us in this world with many differences, so we can use our differences, which is the imagine of all the nations. Because of all the nations, it's I that imagines. Of the I, man, I man. I God, I man, there is no man that can be God. Because he can be God in his own mind. I man, E-man, gin, gin rummy, gin to drink, gin Asian. A for the angel, the T-I-O-N, for all the nations that are together, and once they are, we call it national soup, because every nation has another letter to its name, which makes the difference. So it makes our alphabet, so we throw it all together in the air. The letters, they end up at the bottom of the barrel. We're all together in the same barrel in the E world, except for what we do with the end of everything is what happens to the end of this. It's the end of this that chooses the end of this. So we choose the end of all our lives, for we're put here to live the right way. We would know the day of our death, and it wouldn't worry us if we were pure, because who wants to not be pure? So therefore, they had the cat first before the dog, because the cat did purr. They brought the car in there from the grid, and the car did purr. Otherwise, it went puck, 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 like a chicken, because there was something wrong. Well, not with the cable, but with the boosters, the ejectors, the injectors, the piston. You remember what you pissed on? Well, when you have Yellow Man, you need the pistons to make the piss on in the gas, the tank of the gas, which is the gas or God of the angel of the S, who is the man, or the snake of the man. Gas, Yellow Man, in the car of the grid of man in part 2. So in part 2, man screwed it up again. Thus and therefore, that was the situation we have now. That's what brought up this. And what brought this up was me, because I thought about it all, and I thought if I didn't tell you what I knew, then I wouldn't be nice, and I wouldn't be sharing. And whatever you do with it, I don't know you now, and if you don't leave me a comment or come back to me, I won't know you later. I'm trying my best, but in this world, when you talk about God, no one wants to know. But when you're ready to die and God says, are you coming with me? You start to listen. So you better start to listen now, and what you listen to, listen very carefully, because the end of time is 2012. And the reason is because of the Galactica organization of getting together for the dance, the purification of the angel who brings back with him the man that he can. in the time, the nick of time, so he gets back. And he goes back with Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Heart Band, and he takes off into the sky with his castle, and his castle on his head is actually the 4 aces that kept them together here, and the castle protects them, and the points of the castle point right up. So if somebody points right down, and they go in between the 4 points of the